They thought she'd stay quiet, take the insults, and smile for the money. They were wrong. They say the biggest business deals happen behind closed doors. Not in offices, not on video calls, but at private estates, on yachts, at mountain retreats. That's where the handshakes that really matter take place. Maya Johnson knew this. She'd been in business long enough to stop pretending it wasn't true. So when the invitation came, hand-delivered on thick, expensive paper, she wasn't surprised. The Henderson Family Summit, hosted by the Hendersons, one of the richest families in America. Old money, older attitudes, real estate, oil, tech, banking. They owned pieces of everything. And now they wanted logistics. Maya had built TechFlow, solutions from nothing. Started in a small office in Atlanta, now it was a national powerhouse. Her AI shipping system was the future, and everyone knew it. The Hendersons wanted in. A $1 billion partnership was on the table. Everything looked perfect, except one thing. The invite said, "Join us for a private weekend of business. Talks and relationship building at our family ranch in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Dress casual, leave business suits at home." Maya raised an eyebrow. Jackson Hole. She had nothing against Wyoming, but this wasn't her world. She moved different, talked different, built different. Still, she said yes. She didn't get this far by being scared of uncomfortable rooms. Her assistant, Tasha, looked worried as they packed. "You sure about this?" she asked, folding a sweater into Maya's bag. "Something about these family summits feels wrong. They want your brain, but they expect you to laugh at their jokes." Maya smiled slightly. "They need this deal more than I do." She arrived in Jackson Hole on Thursday afternoon. The Henderson Ranch was huge, like something from a movie. Security everywhere, black cars, private runway, helicopters in the distance. A young man in expensive outdoor gear met her at the gate. "Ms. Johnson, welcome. We're so excited to have you here." "It's Maya," she replied, shaking his hand. He paused, then grinned. "Right, Maya, I'm Connor. I'll grab your bags. The family just finished lunch on the deck." She followed him past perfect gardens, luxury cabins, tennis courts, and even their own whiskey distillery. This wasn't just money. This was generations of power. Maya took it all in quietly. When she reached the main lodge, she saw them. A dozen people in casual designer clothes laughing over expensive water and fancy cheese. The Henderson clan. It looked like a magazine ad for rich people. Robert, Henderson Sr., sat at the head of the table. Silver hair, still strong at 75. Next to him was his son David, Maya's main contact. Early 40s, with that smug look that only comes from being born rich. Around them sat wives, cousins, and business advisors. As Maya stepped onto the deck, conversation slowed. Not stopped, just paused. She'd felt that pause before. David stood up fast and waved. "Maya, you made it! We were just talking about automated shipping. Come join us." Maya smiled and walked over, hand out. "Thank you. Beautiful place." Robert Sr. stood next, slower, and looked her up and down. "So you're the woman everyone's talking about," he said, eyebrows up. Quite the reputation. "Hopefully a good one," Maya replied calmly. "Oh, of course. We just weren't expecting—" He stopped short. "Well, come sit. There's wine." No one moved to pull out a chair, so she did it herself. The conversation started again, but Maya could tell she wasn't really welcome at this table. Not really, but that didn't bother her. She didn't come to be liked. She came to make history. But as the day went on, it became clear she'd have to fight more than just business battles to get there. Maya thought she'd seen every type of workplace disrespect. She was wrong. That first evening, the Hendersons threw a welcome party in their glass lounge overlooking the mountains. It looked casual on the surface. Cheese boards, soft music, fireplace going. But underneath, it was a test. Every conversation felt like an interview. "So where did you actually grow up?" asked Rebecca Henderson Wells, Robert Sr.'s daughter, swirling her wine. South Atlanta, Maya answered without blinking. Rebecca tilted her head, amused. And now you're here negotiating $1 billion deal with us. That's amazing. The way she said us wasn't lost on Maya. She smiled calmly. Hard work travels far. Across the room, David had cornered Tasha, who came to help with the trip logistics. So what's your boss like in real life? He asked, clearly thinking Tasha was just a personal assistant. Tough. Type A? I bet she had a military dad or something, right? Tasha blinked. She's standing 5 feet away. You could just ask her. David laughed like she was being cute. Yeah, but she's all business right now, wanted the inside scoop. Maya heard it. She heard everything. Later, as everyone moved to the game room, one of the cousins, a guy named Brett in his late 30s, leaned against the pool table. I was shocked when David said TechFlow's CEO was you. Honestly, I pictured someone different. Maya tilted her head. Different how? He gave an awkward laugh. You know, maybe older, maybe a guy. Definitely not someone who could balance high heels and balance sheets. Maya laughed softly, but her eyes stayed cold. I get that a lot. Usually, right before someone tries to lowball me. For a moment, the room went quiet again, just like on the deck. Later that night, back in her guest room, Tasha knocked, already in pajamas. You okay? She asked. Maya was brushing her hair in front of the mirror. I'm fine. They're being slick. About it. You caught all that, right? I caught it. All of it. Want to leave? We can fake being sick. Private jet out before morning. Maya smiled at that. Tempting, but no. If I leave now, they win. They think I care more about being liked than being respected. I can't give them that. Tasha sat on the couch. You really think they'll sign the deal? Maya turned around. They need this deal. But I want to see how far they'll go pretending they don't. The next morning brought skiing and ATV rides through the hills. Maya skipped it and used the time for investor calls from the guest office. A wood-paneled room with books that looked more for show than reading. By afternoon, she returned to the lodge. The others were back, muddy boots everywhere, laughter coming from the kitchen. As she walked through, a woman with a clipboard, one of the ranch staff in a gray uniform, hurried. Over. Oh, I'm so sorry, she said, out of breath. Are you one of the new caterers? Maya stared at her. No, I'm not. The woman turned red. Oh, I didn't mean... Maya cut her off gently but firmly. You assumed. It's fine. Happens all the time. She walked past slowly, every step echoing. Back. In her room, Maya sat on the bed and stared out at the trees. Wyoming was beautiful, but beauty didn't matter right now. Respect wasn't something in the air here. It was something she'd have to take. But she had no idea how far the Hendersons would go to test her before she finally had enough. The next evening was supposed to be relaxed, just a small dinner by the fire. They called it intimate, a chance to chill before tomorrow's big presentation. Maya dressed simple but sharp. Black pants, a nice camel shirt, low boots. She walked into the dining room where a long wooden table had candles and fancy place settings. Only 9 seats this time, not the full group. Robert Sr., David, and a few others were already drinking. But before Maya could sit down, a voice stopped her. Excuse me, can you refill the wine over there? And we need more ice. Maya turned slowly. It was Margaret Henderson, Robert's wife. She held a crystal glass and wasn't even looking at her. Ma'am, Maya said flatly. That made Margaret look up. Her face froze for half a second. Oh my God, She waved her hand. I thought you were staff. I'm not, Maya said. I see. That now, Margaret said, adjusting her shirt. My mistake. The room got quieter. David tried to fix it, laughing awkwardly. Mom, Maya's the reason we might still have a shipping division in 5 years. But the damage was done. Maya walked to her seat without another word. During dinner, no one mentioned it directly. They talked about AI, automation, shipping routes, climate tech, synergy. But Maya could feel the tension like a wire about to snap. She answered their questions and challenged their assumptions. When David got one of her patents wrong, she corrected him with exact details. The food was great, but she barely ate. At one point, Rebecca leaned over and whispered, "I can't imagine how tiring it must be in rooms where you're always underestimated." Maya gave a tired smile. "It's not tiring, it's just familiar." After dessert, Robert Sr. raised his glass. "To Maya," he said, "for putting up with this crazy family of ours. You've got steel in your backbone. That's rare." She raised hers back, but didn't drink. "I built something I believe in," she said, "and when I see that belief questioned, not by data, but by tone, by attitude, I take note." A few people shifted in their chairs. David leaned forward. "Maya, no one here's questioning what you've built. We just have our own way of doing things. Culture, tradition, you know." Maya nodded. "I know." But she didn't say what she was really thinking, because it would have exploded that whole table. After dinner, Maya stepped outside into the freezing air. Tasha found her 10 minutes later, arms crossed in her hoodie. "They mistook you for staff." "Again," she said, voice flat. Maya didn't answer. Tasha took a breath. "You said they needed the deal." "They do. So why are they acting like they don't?" "Because they don't want to need me. They want to absorb me. Quietly, neatly, without changing a single thing about how they do business." "You're still doing the presentation tomorrow?" Maya looked out at the trees, their edges blurring in the dark. "Yeah," she said, "because what I say tomorrow will tell them who they're really dealing with." But even Maya didn't expect just how ugly it would get before morning came. By Friday evening, Maya had practiced her pitch 4 times. She knew every slide, every number, every possible question. But it wasn't the presentation that had her nervous. It was the dinner before it. The final night of the retreat, the so-called family dinner in the main hall. Not casual this time. Formal clothes, candles, long oak table, assigned seats. Tasha wasn't invited. "She's staff, right?" Margaret had asked David. "She's on Maya's executive team," he'd replied, clearly annoyed. But the decision stood. Maya walked into the hall, in a deep green dress, hair up. She looked calm and focused, but felt like she was walking into a lion's den wearing heels instead of armor. The table had name cards in fancy writing. Hers was between Brett and Rebecca. David sat across, Robert Sr. at the head. Dinner began with a toast. Robert stood, glass up. "To progress," he said with a practiced smile, "and partnerships that make the impossible possible." Maya clinked. Glasses but didn't drink. The meal started light. Cold crab salad, then duck with wild rice. Rebecca leaned over and whispered, "I'm impressed with how you've handled this week. It's not always easy being the only woman in the room." Maya gave a small nod. "I'm rarely just the only woman." Brett chuckled from the other side. "But come on, Maya. You got to admit it's a little funny. You walking into this dynasty like some disruptor makes us all look like dinosaurs." "I didn't walk in to look like anything," she replied. "I walked in to bring value." David jumped in. "That's exactly why we're excited. This deal, it's more than numbers. It's symbolic. Us evolving." Maya looked around the table. "Then let's hope symbolism doesn't get in the way of substance." A quiet pause. Salad plates got cleared. Wine got refilled. That's when Robert Sr. decided to speak. "I'll tell you what I don't get," he said, swirling his whiskey like it was part of the joke. This whole obsession with diversity and leadership. What happened to hiring the best person for the job? A few heads turned toward him. "Dad," David muttered, "now's not the time." No, Robert went on. "I'm just saying it used to be about merit. Now it's quotas, diversity hires, boxes to check. Boardrooms are starting to look like marketing campaigns." He looked at Maya. "No offense." She sat still. Everyone waited. Maya folded her napkin slowly and put it on the table. "None taken," she said, "because when people say no offense, what they really mean is they're hoping you'll swallow the insult and keep the peace." Robert leaned back, unfazed. "I'm just speaking truth." Maya looked him in the eye. "Then here's some truth for you. I didn't build TechFlow because I was part of someone's diversity initiative. I built it because no one else could solve the problem I did. My company isn't a box you check. It's the reason your aging empire might survive another decade." The table went silent. Even the waiter stopped moving. Rebecca whispered, "Well?" This got intense. Maya stood up slowly, hands calm at her sides. "I've been called articulate, aggressive, impressive, intimidating. Sometimes all in the same sentence. But rarely have I sat at a table this expensive and heard someone so proud of being wrong." Brett opened his mouth, then shut it. David looked like he wanted to disappear. Robert Sr. raised his glass again. "You got fight. I'll give you that." Maya didn't move. "I have something more important than fight." He smirked. "What's that?" "Options." She didn't sit back down. She left the room, walking past the private chef, the expensive wines, the hunting trophies on the wall. Back in her suite, she locked the door and stared at the documents on her desk, the deal, the proposal, the press draft. Tasha called. "I heard," she said. Maya breathed out. "They really think I need this deal." "You don't." "I know. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't imagine, was that tomorrow the deal wouldn't just fall apart. It would explode." Morning came with gray skies and cutting wind, but inside the ranch it was all quiet luxury. Coffee machines humming, fires crackling, staff moving fast but silently. Maya was up before anyone. She'd slept maybe 3 hours, but her mind was clear. She walked into the meeting room at 8 a.m. sharp. Portfolio under her arm, documents ready, a flash drive in her jacket pocket. This was supposed to be the final meeting. The presentation, the handshake, the beginning of a billion-dollar partnership that could change everything. David arrived first, all smiles. "Maya, let's pretend last night never happened." "No pretending necessary," she replied. "Let's just get to business." He nodded, relieved. Others came in, Rebecca, Brett, 2 lawyers, and finally Robert Sr., wearing the same pressed khakis, an outdoor vest like he was going hunting instead of closing a mega deal. Maya stood in front of the room, backed by the fireplace, her slides ready on the screen. She started strong. "TechFlow isn't just future-proofing shipping," she said, clicking through charts. "We're creating a smart network that reacts faster than human supply chains ever could." Data flashed behind her. Graphs, real-time maps, prediction, curves. They watched, listened, took notes. Then she paused. "I'd now like to walk through the timeline, assuming we still see this partnership as viable." She looked up. Silence. Then Robert Sr. leaned back, hands behind his head. "Impressive," he said. "I mean, it's a bit much, all these smart charts. And AI talk, but you've clearly done your homework." Maya said nothing. David jumped in. "What my father means is—" Robert cut him off. "No, I'll say it plain. You're very impressive, Maya, especially coming from, well, where you come from." She blinked slowly. "And listen," he continued, I get that companies like yours need a little edge, a little story, you know? Woman-led, minority founder, all that. You gotta play the game." He chuckled. "It's like marketing with melanin. Works like magic these days." That's when the air left the room. Everyone froze. Maya looked directly at him. "You said what?" "I said it's a smart move. Don't get me wrong, I admire the hustle." David shifted uncomfortably. "Dad, you're way out of line." Robert laughed again like it was harmless, like he was just being honest. But Maya didn't flinch. She took the flash drive from her pocket, walked over to the table, and placed it gently in front of David. "What's this?" he asked. "My final offer." David opened it and read. He stopped. "You removed the revenue share?" Maya nodded. "And the equity part?" He looked up, confused. "There's nothing left." "That's my offer," she repeated. Robert scoffed. "So you're just walking after all this?" Maya folded her hands calmly. "I walked into this house with an open mind. You fed me wine and insults, mistook me for a caterer, talked about me like I wasn't in the room, told me my success was a marketing trick." Robert shrugged. "So you're going to let your ego mess up $1 billion? She leaned in slightly. "No, I'm going to let my standards stop me from giving you access to what I built." The room was silent again. Maya turned, walked to the door, paused. "You think you still hold all the power," she said without turning back. "But the world's changed. You just haven't caught up." But while Maya was already moving on, the Hendersons had only just started to understand what they'd lost. By lunch, the whole ranch felt like it was holding its breath. Maya had packed light. One suitcase, half-zipped, by her bed. She wasn't rushing, but she wasn't staying either. Tasha knocked on her door just after noon. "They're panicking downstairs," she said, stepping inside. Maya didn't look up from her phone. "They should be. I heard David on a call with their lawyers. They didn't think you'd walk." Maya finally looked up. "Because women like me don't usually get to." Tasha nodded slowly. "Not in rooms like this." They stood quiet for a moment. It wasn't pride in the air. It wasn't revenge either. It was something heavier. The stillness that comes after choosing yourself in a room that made its money pretending you didn't matter. A knock broke the silence. It was David. "Can I talk to you?" he asked, avoiding Tasha's eyes. Maya stepped into the hall. She didn't invite him in. David looked exhausted. The kind of tired that comes from watching a future disappear because you didn't know how to act right in the present. "Look," he began. "I know my dad was out of line. I tried to stop him." Maya kept her face still. "Don't make this harder than it has to be," he said. "You've got something real. We can fix this. Rewrite the story. Tell it right." "Rewrite what, David?" she asked. "That I was humiliated but stayed for the money?" He hesitated. "It's not about staying. It's about being smart." Maya stepped closer. "No. Being smart is knowing that tying my legacy to people who casually disrespect me in front of witnesses would cost me more than $1 billion. It would cost me every person watching who thought maybe, just maybe, dignity still meant something." David rubbed his face, frustrated. "You're really not going to budge?" "I'm already gone." She walked back inside and closed the door. Downstairs, Robert Sr. was pacing. "I told you," he said to Brett. "Give them too much rope and they think they're in charge." Brett didn't respond. Rebecca, sitting by the fireplace, finally spoke. "Or maybe she just didn't need us as much as we thought." Robert waved a hand. "We'll find another partner." Rebecca looked directly at him. "Not one like her." Tasha and Maya left the ranch by mid-afternoon. No formal goodbye, just a quiet exit down the long drive lined with pine trees and expensive silence. As the private jet climbed into the Wyoming sky, Maya breathed out for the first time in hours. Tasha leaned back in her seat, arms crossed. "What now?" Maya looked out the window. "Now," she said, "we tell our story, and we do it our way." But as the plane disappeared into the clouds, the headlines were already being written, and the Hendersons were about to learn that walking away quietly doesn't mean walking away weak. By the next morning, it was everywhere. TechFlow CEO walks away from 1B deal after disrespect at private summit. Maya Johnson makes bold exit from Henderson partnership. Tech founder stands her ground and industry takes note. Maya hadn't even released a statement yet, but she didn't need to. Someone inside, probably one of the junior staff, leaked details to a business reporter, and the story spread like wildfire. The comments were savage. "This woman just did what 10 corporate diversity teams couldn't. This is why we don't just want seats at the table. We want to build our own table." Bro, billion. And she still said no. That's power. The Hendersons were caught off guard. David tried damage control, giving vague quotes about strategic differences and company culture, but it only made things worse because people wanted real answers. And Maya's silence only added fuel. When she finally agreed to one interview, it wasn't with a major network. It was with a Black-owned business podcast based in Houston. She didn't dress up for it. No makeup team, just her voice, and a simple background. "I didn't walk away from the deal," she said calmly. "I walked away from disrespect." She paused. People confuse silence with weakness. But silence can also be a choice, a boundary, a refusal to entertain things that should never be said in the first place. The host leaned in. "What would you say to the young woman watching this, who thinks she has to tolerate those things to succeed?" Maya didn't hesitate. "I'd tell her, you don't climb to the top just to sit next to people who laugh at you behind closed doors. You climb to change who builds the ladder." A week later, TechFlow announced a strategic alliance with a group of minority-owned manufacturing and shipping companies based in Texas and California. Smaller players, but innovative and growing fast. No legacy name, but all mutual respect. And the market loved it. Shares jumped 18% in 3 days. Maya didn't celebrate publicly. She just got back to work. Back in Atlanta, she walked through her headquarters one afternoon, watching her team work on timelines, prototypes, shipping drones. Real people, real ideas. Not legacy wealth, just legacy being built. Tasha caught up with her by the conference room. "You good?" Maya smiled slightly. "I'm better than good. Some of the executives want to know if you'll speak at the Tech Summit next quarter. Keynote slot's yours if you want it." Maya paused. "Tell them I'll think about it." "You're not still worried about how you looked walking away, are you?" Maya turned. "No, I'm thinking about how many people never realized they could." She walked away, phone in hand, eyes forward. Some deals are worth more than money. Some exits are louder than press releases. Maya didn't walk away because she lost. She walked away because she won something bigger, her self-respect. And in doing so, she gave permission to every young leader watching to do the same. If you're in a space where your value is questioned, where you're tolerated but not respected, ask yourself, is the check worth the cost? Because sometimes the boldest move you can make is walking away,